My name is Joshua Northrup. I'm going to be taking you through Health and Population, which is Chapter 13. I've spent most of my life working in emergency medicine, and this is the chapter that kind of spoke out to me. Here we have our knowledge objectives, basic ones that we have to cover, and I'm going to give you guys a brief summary of those as we go through. So the first one here is a global analysis of health. The main idea here is the more egalitarian the nation, the better off life, the quality and quantity of life is for its citizens. As far as social diversity in U.S. health, most of the studies focused upon middle-aged white males, but that makes up a small minority of the country. So many studies and grants and funds now are focusing on everybody else in society that we deal with. As far as epidemiology, it's just the study of how a disease came about, how it's transmitted, and where it's going. As far as HIV and AIDS, there was originally a lot of social stigma around HIV when it came out, but with the prevalence of celebrities and with the prevalence of gay culture in media and society now, HIV has taken a huge leap forward out of that stigma as far as the studies and treatments for it. As far as smoking goes, stop smoking. It kills people all day, every day. Horrible habit, and it will kill you. Stop smoking. As far as how AIDS changed America, again, with celebrities like Rock Hudson and Magic Johnson, they realized that HIV isn't necessarily a death sentence, and it's not something that should be stigmatized. It's just a disease like anything else. As far as societal obesity, attack on obesity, the idea here is not how you look, it's how you live. Obesity isn't how you look, it's the quality of life that you lead. When we start talking 20 to 30% over your recommended body weight, that's when we start getting into the obesity category. That leads to huge medical conditions and very serious um, problems downstream for you. So it's not how you look in a bathing suit, it's being able to hug your children when you're old. As far as medical care, the medical profession in general, doctors started off as barbers leeching people in between haircuts, and then they kind of rose to the height of career respect and prestige. And now, thanks to Google WebMD and Facebook Friends, doctors have been taking a big hit in the prestige category for a couple of years now. So we'll kind of see how that all pans out. As far as sexism and research, again, everything was based originally on those middle-aged white males. Many studies now can't get funded unless they add in females and non-whites into the patient population. As far as social diversity and seeking medical care, the more money you have, the more times you'll see the doctor. It's kind of the way that it pans out. If you can barely afford the subsidies of life, you can't really afford a $20, $30, $50 copay to go get your blood pressure checked. So I spent most of my career working in City Heights in southern San Diego. Um, so I know a lot of patients that told me that they wouldn't go to the doctor unless it was an emergency because that was actually covered by their insurance, whereas a medical care doctor visit wouldn't be. As far as the U.S. healthcare system, we pay more than any other country for our healthcare, and nobody's happy with it. So we've been doing pushes to try to see if we can make that better. The Affordable Care Act that Obama put into place was an option. It saved lots of people, and it ruined lots of people financially. So we'll see what Trump comes up with as far as the revamp of the Affordable Care Act. But insurance and red tape is always a big factor we have to consider there. As far as the major sociological perspectives, this is what's been guiding us throughout the entire course. The first one is the functionalist perspective. This focuses on the positive functions of sickness in society, how we actually view it. As far as the conflict perspective, this looks at the negative side of healthcare and medical care. And then the symbolic interaction explores more of the interaction between doctors and patients. And I suggest you come on here, take a little look at this, and you can kind of see the quotes from the book and how they're used. As far as population itself, that was all the health things. Now we get into the population. The first thing is census. Censuses are basically taken by mailers and surveys. So if they're done properly, they're fairly accurate. Whether or not they get mailed back is a big deal. Population growth. In the United States, we gain one person every 16 seconds, according to the Census Bureau. Whether that's from births or from international immigrants. So it's quite a big growth. As far as birth rates, there's two rules of thumb with birth rates. The poorer the person is, they have two reasons why they're going to have more kids. First is the attrition rate. If you have 12 kids and 6 of them die off, you end up with 6 kids still. And because of loss or lack of healthcare and oversight, they have more infant deaths, as well as more kids equals less pay for workers. So as the birth rate increases, free labor also increases. Death rates on the same trend. Those deaths do factor into here. But the more developed the country, the better off the death rates are for you, and the more developed the country, the better off your lifespan is. As far as international migration, again, this is just going from a lesser or a more difficult situation to a better situation is kind of the idea. So leaving a war-torn country where you're persecuted for your religion or your beliefs to a more free country, a more egalitarian country, kind of drives most international migration. As far as age and gender and marriage, these all lead to the social things we talked about with birth rates and death rates. Age structure, America overall is youthening. We're losing a lot of our baby boomers, and they're starting to die off, if not just age. So that's going to lead to an influx, a brief spike in our death rates, and then it's going to drastically drop off when we have more kids from the newer, younger kids. As far as sex ratio, this is just the difference between men and women. As far as males to females, we have more males born, but more males die. So it's basically a zero-sum game. As far as marriage rates, generally, the more marriages we have, the higher the birth rates, because more kids are born to married couples. As far as the Matthew theory, the idea here is that people grow exponentially, but food production grows linearly. So you're going to eventually outpace the amount of food production you can supply. So that leads to war, strife, disease, poverty. As far as the demographic transition, I just spoke about this earlier, but you start off with both birth and death rates really high. Then birth rates remain nice and high while death rates drop off rapidly. Then birth and death rates kind of decline and normalize a little bit. And then in the fourth stage, which is where the United States and a couple other countries are, birth and death rates are actually considered low, and they can actually even go into a negative state as far as population growth. As far as demographic fallout, the problem here is too many people equals not enough stuff for anybody. So Africa, for example, uses half of its overall economic power just to give basic substance to its citizens. Voluntary and compulsory population control are two options for keeping populations at a certain rate. Voluntary is generally positive and compulsory is generally negative. So voluntary would be giving raises at work, free college, things of that nature, where compulsory population control will be focused more on penalties, jail time, chemical and mechanical castration in some cases. So that's kind of heavy-handed. As far as U.S. population, we have two things that really affect us. Our birth control. In the United States, we have easy access to low-cost, if not free birth control. Pretty much any doctor's office or Planned Parenthood can give that to you. As far as immigration, again, we get one immigrant to our country every 16 seconds. Every 33 seconds. So that accounts for 26% of our population growth, which is kind of a big deal. As far as immigration, nobody's ever taken a stand against immigrants. America was founded on immigrants. The big problem we've been running into is illegal immigration. And one of the fixes that's been proposed is amnesty, which is basically saying that all illegal immigrants are now no longer going to be found guilty, and making it easier for them to then become legal immigrants, which would then benefit society as a whole, because it's just impractical to round up 12 to 20 million people and ship them out. That would cause a huge problem to our society, losing those people, as well as the cost finding, prosecuting, and sending them out. That's just a brief summary of this chapter. Please go to joshuanorthrop.com/sociology-101, which will be linked below, and you'll see this page. Hope you guys have a great day.